high winds prevent the medical evacuation team from getting to her. For medevac pilots working in Alaska, it's another day of balancing urgent rescue against the extreme weather and dangerous terrain of the Great North.
Every time I hit the start button, I know that my life is on the line. There's somebody sick somewhere that needs a higher level of care, and so many pieces that have to fall together.
Sun heavy anchorage approach.
In Southern California, a private...
510
10-minute child 33-year-old gentleman involved in a motorcycle versus car.
Lifeguard, Micah. Yes, sir. We've got an adult flight request for ADAC, and they requested that we turn it over to you guys.
The dispatch room at Providence Medical Center in Anchorage, Alaska is the nerve center for the medevac teams of Lifeguard.
Yes, ma'am, we have it.
24 hours a day, every day. Lifeguard dispatchers monitor the volatile weather, communicate with the transport teams, and receive urgent calls for help. Once the call comes in, the rescue clock starts ticking, and weather permitting, Lifeguard's fixed-wing aircraft are in the air within minutes.
Time of call, 1538. Activation is the same. Transport number 030894, over.
A commercial fisherman with a high fever and severe abdominal pain has been transported by boat to a clinic in Adak, a remote island in the Aleutian chain, over 1,000 miles from Anchorage. Adak Island is actually closer to Russia than it is to the Alaskan mainland, and the high winds often make the trip a dangerous high-wire act for the crew. Jake Homer and Corey Zernia are called into duty to fly today. Brian Carrier and Karen Friedel are the flight nurses on duty.
Smooth ahead at 340, negative ice, negative turbulence on the climb out of Anchorage.
Safely piloting a medevac aircraft in Alaska means constantly planning for trouble. Jake Homer is concerned about his options if the weather at Adak worsens and he's unable to land there. To provide a margin of safety, he makes the decision to refuel the aircraft on the way, just in case.
It's about 1,150 miles down to Adak, and there are no places around Adak to get gas. You are not going to get back to anywhere safely. So depending on the weather, we generally stop about halfway at a place called Cold Bay. That way, if we leave Cold Bay and get to the destination of Adak and can't get in, then we can at least get back to another airport for fuel. The Aleutian chain is where all the weather in this hemisphere originates. It can be absolutely horrible. The wind can blow 100 miles an hour. In fact, it was blowing about 35 today when we landed at Cold Bay for fuel.
80 knots.
In Cold Bay, the wind blows so fiercely that no trees grow on this desolate island. Corey supervises the refueling of the Learjet while the flight nurses prepare for the patient.
At that point in time, I did make a call to the clinic to see what the patient's condition was, which helps us to know if we need to get special medications prepared beforehand, because certainly when we go to these outlying clinics or hospitals, the goal is to get in and get out fast.
Airborne again and full of fuel, Jake and Corey head away from Cold Bay and plot their path to the airstrip at Adak.
Just part of Cold Bay, and pretty quick here we'll be coming up with Bean Dutch Harbor on our way out to Adak. So that's about where we're at right now, coming right up here.
The unpredictable and often extreme weather make flying in Alaska unlike anywhere else in the world. But people in Alaska love to fly, and they use their aircraft the way people in the lower 48 use their cars. More than 10,000 Alaskans have their pilot certificates, more per capita than anywhere else in the U.S. But that doesn't mean that flying in Alaska is easy.
I think it's probably one of the most challenging flight regimes in the world. The weather changes so drastically. In the summertime, you can have beautiful sunlit days or high gusty winds. The wintertime, here in Anchorage, it's 20 hours of darkness versus 4 hours of daylight.
Flying in Alaska is very challenging, yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of people like to do it up here, because you keep your skills really on edge because you're flying in challenging conditions. It keeps it really interesting.
Damien Vigil flies a Fairchild Merlin for FS Air, one of 3 medical aviation companies based in Anchorage.
The transponder's on, bias is on, bleeds are on, but speed panel time. Here we go. In Alaska, as versus lower 48, I have to say the places that we fly to, most of them don't have runway lights. The lack of being able to plow the runway during the winter is always a factor. Strong winds, just the ever-changing weather. I think it's very dangerous. What we do, there's just so many factors that we have no control over. I have over 7,000 hours of flying, and I have a healthy respect for the danger that's involved.
FS Air transports patients to Alaska Regional Hospital, one of the only civilian hospitals in the country with a runway in its backyard.
Alaska Regional really has a unique situation in terms of their Merlin being able to land at Merrill Field, and that, in essence, is like a helicopter landing on a helipad right there at your hospital. It cuts down that 10, 15, 20 minutes of ground ambulance transport that you have to do if you're landing at Anchorage International Airport and then having to go to the hospital. Wonderful.
The vast distances and rugged terrain of the Alaskan frontier create enormous challenges for medevac teams. Pilots here use whatever the task demands: Merlins, turbine helicopters, Metroliners, and the speediest of them all, Learjet 35s.
In Alaska, there's no perfect aircraft for the mission. Currently, we're operating a BK-117 helicopter, a Lear 35 jet, and a King Air 200 turboprop. Those 3 aircraft gives us the best of everything in order to cover the area that we cover here within the state.
Hello, this is Robert.
It's a busy day in Anchorage, and another call for help has come into the dispatch center of FS Air. Robert Hester is working the desk.
A flight? Okay, part 2. Kodiak? Okay. And what time did you get your call? All right, let me get some weather and I'll call you right back. All right, thanks. Bye.
An 8-year-old girl has fallen 12 feet off a ledge on Kodiak Island, 450 miles south of Anchorage. She has multiple fractures and needs more advanced treatment than the local hospital can give her. She must be moved as soon as possible. But the unpredictable Alaskan weather is not cooperating.
Problems we've got right now is the winds here in Anchorage are gusting almost 30 straight across the runway, with one of the runways being torn up. The other runway in Kodiak's got some wind problems as well. This is another day in Alaska.
The 30-mile-per-hour crosswind means a dangerous return for planes like the Metroliner that will be used on this mission. Robert and the medevac team have no alternative but to wait for the winds to decrease. Far south winds are causing a problem of a different kind, grounding medevac crews and preventing them from reaching their critically injured young patient. Alaska are still blowing at 30 miles an hour, preventing medevac aircraft from reaching the injured 8-year-old girl on Kodiak Island. 1,000 miles to the west, the weather on Adak Island is better than predicted, and the lifeguard crew has landed safely to transport the fishermen suffering abdominal pain. The nurses roll from the airstrip towards the clinic and the waiting patients. The lifeguard team is met by Chuck Luck, a physician's assistant who also happens to be the newly elected mayor of Adak. Chuck takes the nurses to the ailing fishermen, and they get to work.
Do you mind if I just quickly listen to your lungs and do a real quick check?
I love what I do. When I was in
Oh, man, we got 81 now.
Wow, you guys are expanding.
Yeah.
With the patients stable and prepared for travel, it's time to return to the waiting aircraft. Although the sick man is resting comfortably, the nurse's job isn't over until the patient is safely delivered to the hospital in Anchorage. With some help from local Adak residents, the patient is loaded into the plane, and Corey takes the left seat for the long flight home.
There are quite long days that go along with flying medevac. I'd just say it takes a lot of dedication, a lot of desire to do it. I enjoy the flying, and it just tops it off when I can help somebody with my profession.
If you want to keep an eye on the vital monitor for me, I'll do the charting.
To 33,000 feet, the headwind that had slowed it down on the way to ADAC is now a screaming 100-knot tailwind, making this Learjet near fighter jet fast.
Yeah, what's up?
The 620 miles an hour will beat Anchorage in an hour and 40 minutes. Wow!
Moving 620?
We're cooking.
It's nearly 11 p.m., and the Alaskan skies are still filled with daylight. It's early July in this land of the midnight sun. And while the sun does set in southern Alaska in the summer, it never gets completely dark. By contrast, in the winter months, there are less than 5 hours of daylight to work with. The crews take this in stride. The nurses continue to monitor the ailing man. Alaska. The winds have finally calmed, giving rescuers the chance they need to reach the injured little girl waiting on Kodiak Island. After the initial call for help, the FS more than 5 hours after the initial call for help, the FS aircrew finally receives clearance to depart for Kodiak Island. Fully briefed on the injured girl, the flight nurses prepare for departure. The forecast calls for winds to diminish into the evening, but there are still strong gusts in Anchorage as the crew takes off. Piloting the plane are Bruce Sherry and William Johnston.
The wind had subsided a little bit from this afternoon, but we still had a wind out of the southeast, and because there's a bluff on the south edge of the airport here, when the winds come over the hills, they make some turbulence. Definitely safe, but definitely kept us on our toes tonight. So.
Above the clouds, the crew settles in for the 90-minute trip to Kodiak Island. Once south of Anchorage, the evening turns clear, and the crew enjoys smooth flying on their way to Kodiak.
We're currently 136 miles from Kodiak. We're just coming over homers on our right side here, about 15 miles, approximately right here. And this is pretty much a direct route. Anchorage is right here. We're going direct to Kodiak Airport. Hopefully once we get closer to Kodiak, the clouds give way. It'll be a pretty sight over there. It's beautiful over there.
Flight nurses Lou Amundsen and Joel Wrights prepare the equipment they'll need to treat the injured girl. In the cockpit, the pilots prepare for their descent. Kodiak Airport has one of the most challenging approaches in Alaska. Just off the end of the runway is 2,500-foot-tall Barometer Mountain, making landing at Kodiak an unforgiving experience.
You only go in one way, get out one way. You land towards the mountain. Doesn't matter where the wind is coming from. It's pretty challenging.
Pilot Bruce Sherry has one chance to put the aircraft down safely. With towering terrain on 3 sides, a missed approach here isn't an option.
As expected, here is the turbulence. Okay, let's go speed side and gear down before landing checks. Okay, we've got power in the ground.
Usually the deciding factor of whether you make it in to Kodiak is the weather. If the weather's bad, you turn around, you come home.
Okay, +5. 1, there you go. For your ref. Ref. 3 greens. Ref. -5.
Just imagine if you have to, you're just about to land and there's a deer or a bear that goes across the runway, you have to go around. I mean, there's mountains over there, there's a big one in front of you, and there's mountains over there. Once you're committed, you got to put it down where you're going to land on those sides of the...
It's a very challenging place to fly.
The flight nurses board a waiting vehicle to take them to the local hospital. The pilots stay with the plane.
Okay. Hi, Rochelle. How are you tonight? My name's Joel. This is Lou.
Hello.
We're gonna fly you up to Anchorage. Okay?
8-year-old Rochelle Abbott was playing with friends when she fell off a ledge and dropped 12 feet to the ground below. She has a broken leg, a broken arm, and a fractured jaw. Because of her young age, Rochelle needs additional medical expertise available only in Anchorage.
The pediatric patient that she is. Actually, I think I was feeling more pain for her than she was with sympathy pains.
The ambulance arrives at the local airport, where Rochelle is carefully lifted onto the plane.
We'll put her in feet first, just like it is. Okay, you're good. That should be good.
Power set, left and right temps are good, airspeed's alive. 80 knots across check. V1, rotate, V2. Pause it right now, please. In transit. Gears up.
William is now at the controls of the Metroliner, and they take off with a 15-mile-per-hour tailwind. Because of Barometer Mountain, the preferred upwind takeoff is impossible.
Lifeguard 5550 is clear to Anchorage Airport via direct. Climb and maintain flight level 200 and squawk 2271. 00 and 2271 for lifeguard 505 Fox Sierra.
In the rear of the aircraft, Lou monitors the now sleeping Rochelle. As the aircraft gets closer to Anchorage, the pilots discover that the heavy winds and turbulence have not decreased as much as predicted. Strong gusts and a potentially dangerous crosswind will still challenge the crew tonight.
Pretty much started below 1,000 feet and started getting light to moderate turbulence all the way down to the ground, and we had to fight the airplane with the winds. They're calling gusts of 23, but definitely it was more, maybe even 30.
Ref plus 15.
In the heavy crosswind, Williams struggles to keep the Metroliner centered on the runway.
Okay, you got left beta, right beta, 290. No challenge.
Okay, you guys got her? Ready? Okay, over there, Terry.
Yep. You want one more down?
Safely on the ground, a waiting ambulance will take Rochelle from Anchorage International Airport to the Native Alaskan Health Center. For this air medevac team, it's a satisfying end to a day that began over 10 hours earlier on a windy day in Alaska.
I love this. I love flying airplanes. It's really satisfying when you fly medevac and you make it back to Anchorage with your patient and you feel like you've helped somebody out. It's very rewarding.
I think the most important part of it is being able to help somebody with what I do. Flying in Alaska is a way of life for us up here, and to be able to go out to the remote communities and pick somebody up that's hurt and bring them back to the healthcare facility is just wonderful.
In the skies above Alaska and California, these pilots and their crews soar with the angels on missions of mercy and grace. They possess a passion for flight, a spirit of giving, and they carry on their wings the hopes, dreams, and lives of the sick and injured they transport.
Alaska is the land of extremes, and this job is the job of extremes for sure.
It's giving back. I'm looking for other ways to be able to use this airplane for good. I don't think I'll ever stop.